Hey friends, it's me, Naomi from Sleepy House Healing. I've been trying to sit down and create this beautiful Capricorn eclipse video to end our eclipse season this year, which has been more than I bargained for. I feel like it's usually an intense time, but we had 3 eclipses instead of 2. We had the first eclipse on June the 5th, a lunar eclipse, I believe in Sagittarius, not an astrologer, but I'm pretty sure. Then we had the Cancer eclipse about 2 weeks ago, solar eclipse. Solar eclipses are new moons, right? Full moons, like right now, tonight, depending on your time zone. We're having the lunar eclipse and a supermoon in Capricorn, and woo! I could not even sit down. I've been so overstimulated, activated, just feeling all the feelings. I know that some of you are brand new to me, my channel, my work, so I said to a few of you on TikTok that I would be pulling a card for new witches, or what I would say people who are just remembering that they're witches, and that's really how I see it. Someone mentioned that in their, and this is kind of expressed in many different ways, where people are kind of like, oh, I wish that I could look up to traditions or witches in my family. And here's the thing, witchcraft used to just be called medicine. It used to just be healing, working with plants, prayers. Like, there is someone in your line, or many someones, maybe you have to go back really far, but there are ancestors who did this kind of work. They may have not called themselves witches. They might not have even seen it as magic, but there are earth-honoring ancestors in your line if you look far back enough. And I think I'll do a video eventually for, tips for people who are just remembering that they're witches. I'll do a video about ancestor work and the other places. I think it can be a good place when, you're overwhelmed and trying to figure out where to go next. And with that said, as I know many newer followers are present, I just want to say, if you have a lineage where y'all are doing spell work tonight, don't let me stop you. However, if you're a newer witch, honestly, I don't recommend doing spell work tonight or under any eclipse ever, because to me, it is a great time to make space for big downloads and to accept messages rather than to try to manifest or do anything or harness anything. So somebody asked, should I not make moon water tonight? I'm not telling you don't do it. I just can smell the chaos in the air already. And I mean, I know people say this all the time, but I really do feel like eclipses can make spell work just not work out how we intend. So if it's like some of your first spells especially, I don't want you to have that experience. But like I said, everybody comes from a different background, and if you are part of a tradition or a lineage where you're doing your work tonight, like, don't let me stop you. Follow your intuition. I'm just here as a guide. So for my new, I don't like the term baby witch normally, but for my new baby witches, I've pulled the Empress reversed, and I've also pulled a card from the Crystal Oracle. And I am not a huge crystal person. I am a rock witch in many ways. I grew up collecting rocks, love crystals, love rocks, but I don't buy them. Lots of reasons for that, and I'll go into it at some point. But I have an oracle deck where I feel like I can still work with the energy of the stone, not vibrationally, but the message is still here. So we have the number 12, which by the way, number 12 in the tarot is associated with the Hanged One. And during eclipses, these portals, right, where we're moving through, getting all of this information, having all these revelations for many of us, some of y'all realizing, oh, I'm a witch, this is my birthright. The Hanged One is where we can get that from, right? The Hanged One is pulling us through an evolution where we're having to pause, change our perspective, and then get big downloads. So to me, it's very appropriate that we're getting both the Empress and the Hanged One, right? Because the Empress and the Hanged One would be in the same line, because 1 and 2 from 12 make 3, which is Empress. So last year, 2019, we were getting a lot of information that is leading us to what we're going through now. I'm really getting that message strongly. We also had collectively the Hanged One, number 12, as our card of the year, and the teacher card being the Empress, right? But she's reversed, or they're reversed, right? So what does this mean? I don't really look up the meanings of these stones. I'm just getting this sense of, first of all, I'm feeling that there's a protective measure here. So we're learning information for how to protect ourselves in the future and energetically, and maybe others as well. But we are also not responsible for other people. Getting that message hard as well, that we're really just responsible for us. We're really responsible for protecting our own energy, keeping our eyes on our own paper, as one of my favorite teachers, Lindsay Mack, says about intuitive work, keeping our own medicine close by, naming our lineage, like I just did, and not necessarily trying to save other people, help them heal. It's beautiful to hold space for other people. I do it for a living. I do it every day with friends, family. I love it. And here during this eclipse season, I've also noticed that I need space held for me as well. And now it is my work to find out how I can get my needs met. And so I want you to also consider with the Empress, it's the same thing. The Empress is all about receiving, all about accepting, right? And so there's another side of this, especially as a reversal. We are also deciding what we will put up with and what we will accept, right? We're expanding to be able to do more and accept more, learn more, take in more information, and use it for healing ourselves and our larger community. Because when we do that work on ourselves, we're leading by example, but we're also learning how to be of best use, be of service. And that's something that I want my young or new to witchcraft witches to know, is that a big part of this work, there is this beautiful centering of your own self that's not in a negative self-centered way, but there is this self-honoring piece of this work that is so beautiful, and I can't wait for you to dig into that. But the other side of that is we really are doing it as service, right? An herbalist is doing it to be of service to the community. A tarot reader, same thing. Anybody that holds space or gives medicine of any kind, we're not just doing it because it's fun. What is the point of being a witch if I'm not using it to create big changes that I want to see in the world? And that starts with my local community, with my close friends, with people near me, and my family, right? So I think of the Empress, people kind of see the Empress as a mother figure sometimes, but you don't need to be a mother to be a nurturer, right? You don't need to be a mother or a parent to want to give beauty, give medicine, and be medicine, right? Walking in our own power, which isn't necessarily yelling or talking louder, right? So there's a lot in there for my new it's weird to say new, because I really do think you're just remembering who you are and what you're meant to do here. But I also, the book here, I love, right? This is your book of shadows that you're getting ready to like you've woken up, right? Eyes are open now. You're blooming in so many ways. And here's your book of shadows getting ready to be filled with all of the insights, all of the revelations of this time. And then I kind of see the seashell as like, you know how you put your ear up to a shell and you like listen and you can hear the ocean, and like maybe I just remember being a child and doing that and thinking I could hear messages, you know, and maybe I just made it up, but who cares? Like I got magic out of that experience. Some people do that with the wind. I did that as a kid. That was something that me and my witchy grandma did growing up. But anyway, let's see what is going to help us through this time. I mean, I'm not an astrologer, like I said. I'm strictly like a tarot oracle reader and, you know, plant witch. But as a Capricorn as well, I know how much Saturn can be really tough on us. It's like a reality smack in so many ways. There's also like a million planets in retrograde, and there are better people to tell you about what all that means. I'm just here to tell you how to cope, because I can't even if I was an astrologer, I can't look at everyone's individual chart, but I can pull cards for, I think, Cancer and Capricorn. I want to pull cards for y'all because it's Cancer season, Capricorn new moon. There's also that polarity between Cancer and Capricorn. But most of us have Cancer and Capricorn in our chart in some way, and we're moving through this season together. So if you're not one of those signs, you're still, you know, this message is for you. I got balance as well, like just an overarching message for everyone. Like, it is so hard to stay balanced during big transitional periods. We're seeing this on a collective level, but I think on a personal level as well, it's hard to, sorry, I'm hearing fireworks in my neighborhood still, or no, it's 4th of July, so I guess it makes sense. But anyway, staying rooted, right? Listening to those higher messages, but remembering that we are actually of the earth. We don't want to bypass anything. We don't want to be so woke, so up here in the clouds, like thinking cosmically, that we forget that our feet need to be on the earth and we have to care about the earth. And I want to bring up the fact that right now at Mount Rushmore, which is really not Mount Rushmore, but the land of the Lakota people, as far as I know, there are many people who have been arrested for trying to protect their ancestral land. So I am going to add some links for, you know, petitions you can sign on my Instagram, Sleepy House Healing. I'm also going to have, maybe I'll put it in my bio, but I know for sure I've shared some posts in my stories of like Venmos to help with the bail funds, because this is a big part of the collective change that we're working towards. Obviously, Black Lives Matter, right? And we are not going to forget any of that, right? We're not setting that aside. We also really have to look at our indigenous people who are still fighting for their land, who are still being deeply oppressed and abused by the U.S. government. So as you can tell, I'm not celebrating 4th of July. I'm not really a fireworks person. I'm not really down to celebrate the birthday of a nation that was built on oppressing some of my ancestors. So if you feel that way or you don't, you're still in the right place. We don't have to agree about everything, but I do have to be upfront that, you know, as people are new to my work, you know, this is the person that you're getting here as your guide. So let's see what is coming. I don't really read much in a predictive way, but I just, okay. So, as I was saying, and I feel is still relevant, we have the 3 of Pentacles. So, working together, right? And the Pentacles being, again, Capricorn, Earth energy. I think of this as like not just people coming together, but I think of like the self, ancestors, and then higher power or the universe or the earth itself coming together with a common goal of, I think, liberation, right? And maybe that's a little on the nose. Maybe there's more to it than that, but we really have to look to the first protectors and keepers of this land that we live on. Wherever you live, there is an indigenous population. So this is not just for like American witches, right? This is so much deeper than teamwork, but I do think that there is this invitation here for collaboration without judgment. Like, each party doesn't have to be perfect when you're coming together to create something. You just have to communicate and give a shit. All right? And so the other card that came forward from the same deck, this is a Mary Evans deck that I really love, the Apparition Tarot. We got Death reversed. So this is, to me, I find it to be an extended period of transition. Not necessarily transformation, though I would say in this particular deck, we're seeing that there is a spirit, right? There is a butterfly coming out of this cocoon. I think we're still meant to be here in this cocoon for a while. We're still meant to be goop. And this, I think this is on a personal and a collective level where it's like an extended transition. Lots of things falling away, and it's not going to just happen all at once. It takes time for those things to fall away. Nobody listening to this has opted into the life that they have. And we could talk about reincarnation, and maybe that's not true, but I would say me here, my consciousness that I'm, we have not chosen to be part of the society that we're part of. We haven't constructed all of the oppressive things that are in place. We just uphold it. This is not to avoid accountability. It's just saying we never opted into most of our circumstances, actually. But we do have the power to move away from and get rid of the shell that's not working anymore, right? The pieces that are rotten, that were never even good to begin with. So that takes time. I wish I could say like it's coming, like, oh, things will get easier soon. Like, probably not. Let me just be honest. But keeping that fire going. And I think just returning to what we definitely know is true. Right? Our inner fire, our inner light, finding the light in just the darkest of circumstances and looking for others with the same light, or just acknowledging, even if it's a different fire, that fire is there, that their spirit holds value, right? Your soul is not better than someone else's soul. My soul is not better than anyone. I'm not superior to anyone. I'm doing my work and I'm trying to be a good person, and I think you probably are too. It's part of why people turn to tarot medicine. But that doesn't put me at a higher position than anyone else. So my years of study, my education, my job, none of that stuff makes me or anyone else more valuable. And that's not, maybe people will say that, but a lot of people don't really think that. There's a lot of limitations, right, that we have, that we've in place. Just, I think it's deeper than just judgment and shame, though that is a piece of it. But we have all these other methods of measurement for people of worthiness. What's worthiness? That all sounds, it all seems to still be playing into the whole ranking of people, which I think we kind of need to ditch that and just recognize that being a person, as messy as we are, it's sacred. We're sacred. And when you start acknowledging your sacred self, it's a lot easier to see that other people are also sacred, even if they're pissing you off, even if they are activating you, triggering you, making you feel bad. It's not even about seeing that, oh, this person, sometimes it is saying like, oh, this person is wounded and that is why this is happening. I just think, again, coming back to keeping your eyes on your own paper and just realizing that it doesn't really matter. It has nothing to do with an individual or their actions. Like, we are sacred just because we're here at this time. And with that said, pull the Ace of Cups. So, as hard as it is to have empathy for other people sometimes, and I know that we can say that we're empaths all day. We can say that, oh, I feel so many things. I would say I'm a highly sensitive person, right? But I also am selfish, and I think that a lot of people are. It's just the truth of, it's like survival, right? We have our judgment and our selfishness as tools. We prioritize our own comfort and ourselves in some way. With that said, the seed of true empathy, true compassion, true understanding, and healing of the collective, it has been planted. It's being planted now as people continue to wake up and just taking the lessons that you've learned since last year. Like I was saying, when I pulled the Empress and the 12, which is the Hanged One in tarot. Right? So last year, and within this space of the eclipse portal from June 5th till now, the seed's being planted. We know that even when we're watering the seed, putting our seeds in sunlight, we're not going to see anything for a while. It might feel like nothing's happening, but what we know about seeds is that eventually, given enough nourishment and attention, it does bloom. It does produce results. So this is coming, right? I don't know why, or I do know why. Seeing that sun come up out of that cup, I just think of the Hair musical. Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine in, the sun shine in. So that's difficult, right? It's difficult, especially if you are someone who is feeling the effects of major oppression. If you are someone who is like dealing with fireworks being used as a tactic in your neighborhood, right? It's difficult when we are all, many of us, so activated, especially those of us who are sensitive. Just knowing that that sun is going to rise. There is a new day coming. Is it going to be tomorrow? Probably not. It takes time and watering, but we all have the ability to water this seed of compassion and empathy, and it really does start with the self. I kind of see aces a lot of times as having to do with the self. So again, eyes on your own paper, work on your own stuff. I am not saying don't call people in, but I do think that when you lead with your own integrity, your values, things that you care about, or even just caring for yourself, educating yourself in ways that school did not, people notice. People will notice that, and it will inspire people. It's really easy to, I think, assume that everybody just is thinking the worst of you, or thinking, oh, I need to make sure people know that I'm doing XYZ. I think that they just notice if it's genuine, and there's no need to perform. When we let go of that need, that's when the real work happens, right? I keep seeing this stuff about, all the symbolic actions we're doing, and I think it's great. Like where I live, I'm like, heck yes, please, let's get these, Confederate soldier statues down, please, let's do. I don't like seeing it. I don't like thinking that is what my heritage is, because it's really a small part of my heritage, right? And either way, it's like not something to be proud of. But as these symbolic gestures roll in and fall away, we really can't let that be the only thing. And I think that also is true for the self, right? We can get a haircut, we can get, new makeup or whatever you do to feel good and to put your best face forward, as cheesy as that sounds. But none of that is going to necessarily make us heal or make us grow in any way. It's just icing. And don't get me wrong, I love icing, but if the cake is rotten underneath, what's the point? So working on that growth and really just trying to be gentle with yourself at this time, giving yourself a big hug. The thing I would say for tonight, if you want to pull yourself a card or pull yourself a whole spread, asking for the messages you need and then just taking a couple minutes to journal it, that's appropriate. That's appropriate for your witchy journey. You don't have to be doing spells like every single day, especially under an eclipse. I'm just saying, I don't really recommend it, but as we move forward, there's so many things that are going to come up, hard truths, and I really believe that our magic weaves itself together. You layer it in as you go. I used to feel like I needed to do spells all the time, or am I really practicing? Doing and having an ancestor altar that you make offerings to every day or every week. I mean, to me, that is baseline. That's practicing. And I will do, like I said, I will do a video just on that. You can see some pictures if you look back far enough on my Instagram of my ancestor altar, but I'm kind of feeling, at least these days, a little more private about certain parts of my practice. I used to be so much like, here, look, let's see what I'm doing and you can do this too, and I'm all about that. And if you're someone who shares everything, great, that's fine. There's no wrong way, but I'm personally just feeling a little more private about certain aspects of my practice, and I think as I connect with more people that's just kind of what happens. So nothing wrong with it. It's just part of the journey, and I do feel like, there's boundaries that are being redefined at this time as we start understanding ourselves more. And through every eclipse season, I swear, there's a new boundary that I'm like, ooh, I think I need that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because boundaries are just love. When we care about ourselves and value our relationships, it's normal and good practice to have boundaries, energetically and otherwise. So I just pulled the last card, and I got the healer card. I don't call myself a healer, and like I was saying, people heal themselves. I heal myself, and I hold space and guide other people to their own healing. But I like this snake, and the reason is, on June 5th, the very first eclipse in this series of 3, I saw a snake with my son, and I had decided, a long time ago, I'm not going to pass on my fear of snakes to my kid, because I know it comes from my own conditioning. But I did not expect to see the snake, and I hollered and we ran away. But we had a nice chat afterwards, and just so many animal messengers have come to me through this eclipse season. I'm not somebody who gets a ton of animal messages. I have a friend who's really into talking to animals, and straight up Eliza Thornberry shit, and I love it. It's really cool, but that's never been me. But here lately, I have been getting more in that regard. And it's just, I think part of that is I'm shedding some of that fear of like being too silly. And that is something also that I think comes up talking to newer witches, admitting that like I talk to plants. It's okay to talk to animals. It's okay to talk to the moon and listen to the moon. And in fact, that is a practice that every full moon, and sometimes in the quarter moon, I will scry with the moon and just listen to what message is being sent. And so last night I was looking up at the moon. It was so large in the sky, wrote some poetry just about what I was feeling in the moment. And I saw in the moon 2 people laying in a bed in the moon with a dog or maybe a child or something else in between, like another being in between them. And I usually record that, whatever I see. I know I can look back at my book of shadows, and there's different images that I saw, and each one means something for me at that time. So at one point, I know I saw a woman's face with very thin, like 1920s eyebrows. I mean, let yourself be imaginative, because it's not really imagining scrying. It's just like receiving without judgment images and messages. So it's a larger conversation. I will talk more about scrying in my other upcoming videos, but the healer card, just part of our healing is letting that judgmental shell fall away. And honestly, that's something that everyone, no matter the level of practice or how long you've been doing intuitive work, I think all of us will stifle our intuition sometimes to keep going with the flow of our life, because it's very hard to be disruptive and say, my intuition, I have no facts, but my intuition said that this is not good, or I'm getting this weird little sensation in my body when I'm around this person, but I have no evidence that they're bad or they're not, my best interest. They don't have my best interest at heart. I've been doing this a long time, pretty much since I was a kid, on and off, with droughts in between, but I still have a hard time listening to my intuition when it comes to myself. When I'm delivering a message for someone else or the collective, it's right here. Here you go. Do with it what you want. But when it comes to my own life, my own relationships, my own friends, and just interactions with people, I tell my brain to shut up all the time. And my intuition, my brain tells my intuition to shut up all the time. And I just gaslight myself. And I think this is really common. So finding ways to let that judgment fall away, because it comes from, I believe it comes from judgment and other people not really hearing us. So eventually it's harder for us to hear ourselves. So this is just ongoing. I don't think I'm ever going to just be fully done. But if you have that where it's like in hindsight, you're like, man, I should have known that person. Look at all this stuff that's happened. Like, how did I not know? Trying to move past even just the judgment of not realizing it at the time. I feel like that's important. And as these revelations roll in and continue to, feed us in some way or another during this eclipse time and right after, have less judgment for yourself and be very gentle. Don't be mad at past you for not realizing so-and-so, was taking advantage of whatever situation. We all, I think, want things to be simpler. A lot of us really want to assume other people are doing their own work and their own healing, but the truth is that a lot of people are not. They never make it there. They don't want to ever look at themselves and for collective change and personal change and growth, we have to look at ourselves. We have to say, oh, so that's what's in there. And then you have the power to change it. That's why people, that's why the concept of bypassing and shadow work tends to come up. I'm not really using the term shadow work anymore. It's just not really fitting my practice, but underworld, or, radical self-honesty, whatever you want to call it. When we have that information, when we get into that self-knowledge, even if it's like very inconvenient, very confronting, uncomfortable, makes us cry, all of that is just information that we can use to do better and to really heal, to really grow. I'm not saying it's ever done, but the fact that it's never done is not a good reason to never start. So, welcome. And I just hope that y'all can rest as much as you can, as you're going to sleep tonight. And if you're watching this a little bit after the eclipse, you can still do dream work, but tonight and the next few nights, it's a great time to put on your powerful talismans and do dream work. So even if I saw someone on TikTok saying, like, on one of my posts, like, oh, I just started out with my witchcraft journey and now I can't do a spell tonight. And I feel you, like, I know how that can feel, but dream work is deep magic, and this is a good time for that, because dreams are always giving us medicine and information for ourselves. Even if it's something that seems arbitrary, you can write it down. I have some tips on Patreon, I think available to all patrons as a blog post, just tips on how to decipher your dreams and, use them and understand their medicine. But I also do private sessions. So if you have any big prophetic dreams, which I have no doubt that you will, but you want to have a second set of eyes from an experienced dream worker, I have openings all the time with dream work, and I host a free dream circle. I just started it up last month, but I host a free dream circle every month. It's free or by donation, and I would love for you to come. So check it out. If you just Google Sleepy House Healing, you will find all these things. But the best place to find me and everything that's going on is either at my website, sleepyhousehealing.com, or patreon.com/sleepyhousehealing. And then the third place is Instagram. I'm also on there way too much. So anyway, it's an eclipse. I didn't do a July monthly transmission, so this extra long full moon and eclipse message is going to stand in for both, and that means that this month, and any month that I don't make a monthly collective transmission and I just make it, just make a larger full moon, I will, instead of giving away one tarot reading to a patron, I give away 2. So I'm going to do that this month as well. I did it last month. I love it. So if you're not a patron, you can join for $1, and then you're in the drawing for a free 30-minute tarot session with me, where we can dive into whatever's going on with you, or we can do a general soul check-in. And I would love to do that for you. So please check it out. My services are, they're not cheap. I know my worth, but this is one way for me to offer people who aren't necessarily having the funds to just book a reading on its own, but you can get a reading for, literally $1. So, and I also do monthly post, like a Q&A. So, and everyone who's at the $1 and up level can ask a question. It can be, what's going on with me? Can you pull a card? It can be, about witchcraft, whatever. And I will answer it. That is one thing, that is one place where I always answer every question. I like to give people answers, even in DMs. I have a hard time not giving answers, but you're not going to get as much detail. But if you're on Patreon, you definitely will. You'll get it fleshed out, and then it might even inspire a video or a post. So if you're starting out and you're like, I really need to know about, rocks, or why don't you have a large collection of rocks? I heard you're a rock witch. I can go deeper into that and hold space for you there and answer very specific questions. So I have gone on long enough about all the stuff that I'm offering, but I just want to end this with, I have a podcast as well called Rambling Back Home. I just started it. It's not about witchcraft. It is about home. And being that it is Cancer season and we're in this Capricorn Cancer polarity, home, right? Home comes up. And that is something that just the concept of home and finding home, it's very near and dear to my heart, and I have really cool guests on as much as possible. So I'd love for you to find it wherever you listen to podcasts, and happy eclipse. Bye.